Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Leadership Lessons with Sherry. And before we get started with this week's episode, I do have to say I have been a little bit off and on with both the podcast and the YouTube channel, and I want to get myself back on track. It has been a wild ride over the past couple of months. I just want to kind of back up and share with all of y'all so that you understand where things have kind of been coming from. I had the opportunity to add an additional episode each week to the podcast. And I felt like that would be a great way of reaching my audience a little bit more. But I found that with my YouTube channel, people started wondering where I went. And I went MIA for sure. I don't know why, except for the fact that I guess I wasn't saving both the video and the audio recording, a rookie mistake for sure. And I felt like I was having to record two separate things every week. And that's never something that we want to do, right? So then as summer started to come upon us, my nephew got married and I was away for a little bit of time. And then I got back and then I had some other things that kind of had come up and took care of in the month of June. And then July, the world fell apart here in Houston, Texas. I will say that for those of you who listen in and you're in this area. July 3rd is the anniversary of my mother's passing. And so that was a tough day for me. Then we went into the holiday, and with the holiday being on a Thursday, businesses closed up and they didn't really get on board on Friday the 5th. So then we went into the weekend and we found out the Hurricane Beryl was coming our way, and it hit Monday morning, and that's when it all hit the fan and I lost power. I lost power for 8 days. Now I had a place that I could evacuate to and I was safe. If you listen to the podcast, you've heard me talk about this. But even though I was safe and I was able to do some of the work from where I wasn't able to do all of my work. I didn't have all of my equipment with me. I didn't have all of my things with me, and I didn't have the same kind of schedule, so to speak. I was trying to make the best I could. And then I found out as power was not coming back within the first week that my family was coming into town, which I knew they were doing this. This was planned, but they were going to have to also come to where I was. And so we were all at my daughter's and we were hunkered down there, so to speak. Now they had power, they had all the amenities, they had working grocery stores and gas stations and all of the things in that area. But when my parents came into town, at first they were staying in another city and they were staying in College Station, which is not too far from where my daughter is. And they were having a very hard time finding a hotel. So then they decided that maybe they should just go home. Well, the problem with that was my daughter was having her engagement party that Saturday after the hurricane. And my sister was also flying into town, and my future son-in-law's parents were coming into town, and my daughter's best friend was coming into town. And then we were hosting this party. So it ended up that all of us were at my daughter's home. Luckily, she has a big home and everything, worked out, but it was strenuous. It was very, very stressful. And it was a lot of extra noise, a lot of extra commotion. I have a very special needs dog and he's elderly. He's 13 in a few months. And whoa, it was hard on him. He made it through like a trooper, to the best of his ability. And my daughter has a puppy, 2 years old, and puppies, they're wild and crazy, but we made it through to the best of his ability as well. And my daughter did great because we were invading on her space and she never once complained. So power came back on. We were able to come back to my home and had to do the cleanup. It took me 3 days, y'all, 3 different settings to get my yard cleaned up because the grass was so long at that point. There was so much rain and then sun and then rain and then sun and all of that. So I got the yard cleaned up, and then my dad helped me get the fence kind of back in order. It had come down a little bit. I think the tree is going to be okay in the front yard. It's sideways, not sideways all the way, but it's a little bit turned. But I think it's going to grow itself back in order. And then we started having rain. Everybody went home. Well, let me back up. My sister finally went home, but she went home the weekend of the outage with the software. And so she got to Dallas and then was told that all of her flights were canceled from there. And she had to scramble. She finally did make it home into the evening, so it was later. And she also has some other health things going on. And so that was stressful for her. And it took her a couple of days to recover from that. And then my parents were getting ready to go home last Monday, a week ago. But on Sunday of last week, the day my sister flew out, their car broke down. Their car is new. Of course, everything was covered under warranty, but it was stressful and it took them 2 days to get all of that repaired. So then they couldn't leave till Wednesday. And then when they left, then I had to prepare. I went and I am looking for an additional stream of income. So I went to a job fair. Had to prepare for that. I did get offered a job. However, I did not take the job. It's just not the right fit for me. And I did commit to myself. I will take a job, but I want it to be something that's going to continue to propel me forward. In the meantime, I also met with a real estate broker and I am starting to work on finally taking the real estate exam here in Texas. I've taken the course 3 times, once in Iowa, twice here in Texas, and have never taken the exam. I don't know why, lots of different reasons, but I'm going to actually do it. So that's into play. And then I have other things that just keep coming up. So it's been a wild ride. No excuse. I apologize. Hopefully you've been able to get on the podcast and listen in when I talk about leadership, or you've been able to see some of my social media, but I'm committing to you to get back on board and be here. So whew, that was a lot, right? But I truly do believe in the power of really growing and building leaders that know how to do leadership right. I'm not saying that other people are wrong. I know it sounds like that, and I want to clarify. But sometimes we get into these leadership roles for a couple of different reasons. Most people, okay, let's say maybe 60% of the people get into leadership because they want to have an impact on the world. Then you've got another maybe 10%, 15% that believe they get into leadership because of the title. They want the title, they want the increase in salary, which I'm all about making money. Don't get me wrong. But when you make an impact, then you can, have the impact of money come to you, flowing to you as well. But then we've got some people that go into these positions because they feel like it's the next step in their career. And I'm talking now probably about another 15 to 20%. And they're not fully prepared. They believe that it's a good idea. They intend to do really good work. But then when they get into the role, they start to panic. They get overwhelmed and they get stressed. Not because they're bad people at all, but because sometimes they don't realize the magnitude of the responsibility of being a leader. Or maybe they were really good at managing tasks, managing projects, but people are completely different. And you've heard me say so many times, leadership is all about people. It's about people. It's about building and growing and supporting and motivating and encouraging and ultimately empowering people. And you can't do that by checking off just a checklist. Checklists are important. Things that have to get done have to get done. But that's just one component of it. And when you put somebody that's really good at managing tasks and projects into a role and they're expected to lead, that's where we start to have problems. When you put somebody who's doing it for a reason other than the fact that they want to have an impact on the world, that's when we start to have problems. And people have options and people have a voice these days. We have so many media platforms, either traditional media or social media, right? That people can go out and they can air whatever grievances they have. They have options. You get good people on your team and you start to lead them in a way that's not going to align with their core values, with what they feel they deserve, they're going to leave. And then you're going to be constantly spinning your wheels, reinventing everything because you bring on new people, you have to train them again, you have to acclimate them to your climate and culture, and you have to then hope that they're going to be the right fit. And we haven't even started talking about people that don't make the grade, the people that you have to remove from their positions because they're just not exactly what you thought they were going to be. These are the good people that really could have moved your organization forward, but they leave you because they don't feel supported. They don't feel like the environment is what they signed up for. That's why I do what I do. That's why I'm committing to getting back on track and coming into you each and every week, both here on this podcast, Strong Inside and Out, and on the YouTube channel, Leadership Lessons with Sherry. I want to make sure that anything that I get to experience, any of my knowledge and wisdom, any of my experiences that can help somebody be better, I'm going to put them out there. I'm going to share them, and I'm going to be genuine and authentic in all that I do. So having said all of that, let's talk about our lesson for today. And that lesson is recognizing achievements. Oh my gosh, I spoke so much, I forgot what I was going to talk about. Recognizing achievements. You know, sometimes it's so easy as a leader to stay focused on putting out the fires, right? When somebody does something wrong, it's so alarming, right? It's like those old cartoons, and I'm going to date myself for sure, where the big cartoon blasty things come up, right? The horns go and the fire goes, and it's just flashing in front of you when somebody does something that's not aligned with the mission or vision of the organization. And especially when somebody does something that's just blatantly incorrect, unethical. And as leaders, of course, we have to deal with those things. We can't just ignore them. We can't just hope that they're going to fix themselves. And they take up a lot of time. I remember days as a former principal where I would get a report on something, and it wasn't always, but when it happened, it was usually pretty significant, right? When it got to me, and I would have to do investigations. And when it came to the actual staff, it was actually me and the assistant principal tag teaming on this. So it's two people spending hours upon hours talking to witnesses, talking to the person accused of something, talking to the people around them, talking to anybody involved, trying to make decisions based on the information that you're collecting, and then make decisions that keep your organization, your clients and customers at the forefront, but also keep the dignity of your team members. It's a lot of work. And then on top of it, you have all the other things about running your business, right? Go out and market, go out and sell, go out and monitor this, go out and speak, go out and write, go out and teach children, and go out and, I mean, I could list on and on and on all of the different skills and tasks that we're responsible for as a leader. And here's what ends up happening. The people that are struggling get our attention. The tasks that earn money get our attention. The things that will make or break our organization get our attention. People who are doing really good, phenomenal things tend to just be expected to continue to do good and phenomenal things and don't always get our attention. I was guilty of this. I remember there were some years where I just felt like, oh my gosh, I just feel like all I'm doing is putting out these fires. And I didn't have to worry about X, Y, Z, A, B, C staff members because I knew they were just going to always do their best. And they did. They came to school every day. They were on time every day. They showed up for duty every time they had duty. They taught to the best of their ability. They supported others. They did all of these great things. And I was a bad leader. Or maybe I was still learning and growing because I didn't take the time to recognize their achievements. Now, they stayed with me because they were loyal to me. But there were points in our journey together where they would stop me and say, hey, I did this and you didn't even recognize it. You didn't even tell me thank you. And I would feel so bad about myself. And ultimately, over the course of the 16 years of leading schools, of course, I've had members that left because I didn't give them the recognition that they needed. So when I took on my final school, one of the things making that transformation that I really, really reflected on and did differently was making sure that I was recognizing achievements. I knew that we were going to do really, really hard work. I knew that we were going to have to deal with some team members that we had inherited. And so they may or may not have been the right fit for us. And we may have to work on getting them out. I knew that we were going to have to work hard to build climate and culture, processes and procedures, and ultimately the systems that ran our organization. But I also knew that I had to schedule within my day for times for us to recognize achievements. We did some different things. We would make sure that at team meetings, we pointed things out. We wrote cards or note cards or little cards, handwritten ones to those team members. There was even one year where we wrote cards to the team members' emergency contact person, telling them what a great job the team member was doing. That was a big hit, I promise. There was a year where I would call each of my high flyers, my shining stars in, and I would sit them down and I gave them a write-up. I said, I'm meeting with you today because I'm going to write you up. Here's a copy. I would like to go over this with you. And they would look at me like, oh my gosh, she's lost her mind. And within the write-up, it was all of the great things that they were doing and how much I appreciated the work that they were doing. I said, now I want this to go in your personnel file and I want it to go to the district level. So I would need you to sign and date this. Your signature does not necessarily mean that you agree or disagree with the contents of this memo, but it does indicate that you received a copy. Do you have any questions for me? 80% of the people I met with were in tears. And one of them said, I do this because I want to make a difference for kids. You recognizing that made my day, made my year, made my life. Most people just expect us to do our job. None of those things cost me any money. Well, maybe the cost of the paper and the printing and the, note cards, but it was very, very inexpensive. And it made a huge difference because what I found was that those people that were doing a great job continued to do a great job for me. And they started bringing people they knew that would do a good job to fill vacancies that we had in the future. And when we were having tough days or tough years or tough situations, they were there to step up and be my support system as the leader. They're people that even now, if I need something from them, they're going to be there. And if they need something from me, I'm going to be there for them. It built a different kind of relationship. And ultimately, that is what brought us to the levels of success that we saw. So today, my main lesson for you is spend some time reflecting on this. Are you spending all of your time putting out fires, all of your time on the things that are generating money for you, for the things that are right in front of everyone's face that you feel are the emergencies, the most important things, and forgetting about the good work that people are doing? Or are you recognizing your people for their achievements, for the loyalty that they show to you, for the great things? And it's not necessarily about paying them more, but those heartfelt recognitions that make people go, wow, she cares about me. If you're not doing it, today is your day. Just set up a system where you can do that. It doesn't have to be each and every day. Start with something that's manageable and make sure the recognition is genuine, because people know that too. All right, guys, first week back on YouTube, back to regular episodes on the podcast. I hope everyone has an amazing week. I hope this episode helped you with a little information so that you can go and lead your organizations to the highest levels and be the leader you were meant to be. None of us set out on this journey to be average. We all want to be amazing. Thank you for joining in, and I'll see y'all next week.